Hello and welcome to our afternoon edition of Newsbreak here on Arirang TV. It's 3 p.m. on Monday, September 5th here in Seoul. Filling in for Han-daeun this week, I'm Mark Broom. We begin in Hangzhou, where South Korea and China held a summit on the sidelines of the G20 summit. Presidents Park Geun-hye and Xi Jinping reaffirmed their country's strong bilateral relations while agreeing to upgrade those ties through enhanced communication. We'll connect to our correspondent Song Ji-sun, who's travelling with President Park. Ji-sun, many observers are looking to see how they handle issues, including South Korea's decision to deploy THAAD and North Korea's nuclear issue. What's the latest?
Mark, we do have more detail from the briefing, and the two leaders' meeting this morning lasted about 15 minutes longer than scheduled before they headed to G20 session. They exchanged views on South Korea's deployment of THAAD and agreed to continue communicating on this issue. President Park explained Seoul's need to protect itself from North Korea's escalating missile and nuclear threats, and there would be no reason for THAAD if such threats did not exist. Park called for Beijing's cooperation, stressing that now is the last chance to curb North Korea's nuclear ambitions, and that the international community must together send a consistent message. Chinese President Xi Jinping vowed to implement the UN sanctions on Pyongyang and reaffirmed Beijing's stance on a denuclearized North Korea and maintaining peace on the Korean peninsula. Xi did, however, express opposition to the U.S. missile defense system THAAD being deployed to South Korea. According to China's state-run Xinhua news agency, President Xi said, quote, "Mishandling the issue is not conducive to strategic stability in the region and could intensify disputes." The two sides were on the same page in terms of developing bilateral relations, with next year marking 25 years of diplomatic ties. Park used a Chinese proverb to say that there should be upgrade their relations from recognizing their differences to trying to narrowing the gap. Going forward, Seoul and Beijing agreed to use a range of channels to reinforce strategic communication on the North Korean issue and on THAAD, while involving Washington in a trilateral dialogue. Back to you in Seoul.
Thank you, Ji-sun, for that report. And with the G20 summit underway in China, North Korea lobbed not one, not two, but 3 ballistic missiles into the EC earlier today. For more on the latest in a series of rapid-fire provocations by the North, we connect to our Connie Kim, standing by at South Korea's Defense Ministry in Seoul. Connie, these launches came less than 2 hours after South Korea and China wrapped up their summit talks.
Right, Mark. Seoul's Joint Chiefs of Staff confirmed about 2 hours ago that North Korea fired 3 ballistic missiles into the EC at 12:14 p.m. South Korea time from Gwangju County, a western region south of Pyongyang. The Joint Chiefs of Staff said the missiles are believed to be a medium-range Nodong-class missiles. They flew about 1,000 kilometers, coming down in waters within Japan's air defense identification zone. And the missiles were launched without issuing a no-sail warning. South Korea's military authorities say they've been keeping a close watch on possible provocations as September 9th, this coming Friday, the 68th anniversary of North Korea's founding. Now, North Korea has a track record of provocations around this important date for the regime. 2 years ago, Pyongyang test-fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles to mark the national holiday. And we must also remember that these launches come less than 2 weeks after the North test-fired a submarine-launched ballistic missile. That test was deemed successful as the missile traveled some 500 kilometers, breaching Japan's air defense identification zone in the process. And the timing of today's launches and the August 24th SLBM are interesting. As you mentioned, today's launches coincide with the G20 summit in China, where the upcoming deployment of the THAAD missile defense system to South Korea is being hotly debated by the leaders of South Korea, the U.S., China, and Russia. On top of that, we should also note that South Korea's new North Korea's human rights law took effect less than 24 hours ago, so this could be a dual-purpose armed protest by the North. There continues to be speculation that leader Kim Jong-un is using these missile launches to consolidate his power within the regime and bring a reaction from the international community in the only way it knows how. Mark, that's the latest we have for now, but we'll keep an eye on the latest developments as we get them here at the Defense Ministry in Seoul. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Connie. That was our Connie Kim reporting from the Defence Ministry in Seoul on North Korea's latest provocation, test firing 3 ballistic missiles into the East Sea. More details coming up in our next newscast at 6 p.m. Korea time. Now, over at South Korea's National Assembly, the leader of the ruling Saenuri Party has given his first full address to Parliament on his party's policy goals. His was the first in a series of speeches by the leaders of the main political parties marking the opening of the Assembly's regular session. Our political correspondent Park Ji-won has more.
The leader of Korea's ruling Saenuri Party has laid out his party's policy goals, vying to spearhead long overdue political reforms. In his first speech to the National Assembly as party leader on Monday morning, Lee Jung-hyun stressed the need for lawmakers to give up their privileges.
I always wanted to appeal to you, my fellow lawmakers, that Parliament desperately needs to reflect on itself and be reborn to be the people's true representative.
To achieve that, he suggested creating a task force this month to revamp the way parliamentary politics are conducted, to ensure lawmakers truly focus on serving the people rather than themselves or their party. Lee also urged the opposition parties to cooperate on the passage of several pending economy-related bills, including a labor reform bill, as well as on security issues like the planned deployment to South Korea of the THAAD missile defense system.
I propose that the Assembly creates a new tradition of bipartisan cooperation on matters of security, such as THAAD, cyber terrorism, as well as security funding and other security-related bills, for the sake of the country.
He also made conciliatory gestures to opposition parties and Korea's southwestern Honam region for the ruling Saenuri Party's past political attacks and long-perceived disregard, saying regionalism is fading away, citing himself as living proof, being a real Saenuri lawmaker whose constituency is in the Honam region. The main opposition Minju Party's leader Choo Mi-ae will deliver her address on Tuesday, followed by a speech by the minor opposition People's Party's interim leader on Wednesday. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Well, that's all the news we have for now. We have Business Daily. That's coming up at 4 p.m. Korea time, so stay tuned to Arirang TV. Have a great day. Goodbye.